Hey guys, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2019 Jeep Wrangler and I want to walk you through how to install Roadmaster's Smart Diode wiring kit. What the wiring kit is designed to do is to allow you to transfer your light signals from your motorhome back to the back of your vehicle, so you're not only legal but you're safe. Everybody around you knows what you're doing, whether you're braking, turning, or driving at night. What the diodes do is they protect your factory wiring inside your vehicle from any backfeed from the motorhome, or vice versa. It's going to protect your motorhome wiring from any backfeed from the vehicle if there's a wiring issue. The difference between smart diodes and regular diodes is, one, we're only going to have one diode that gets tied into our factory wiring behind the taillights. With regular diodes, you actually have two, so it can be challenging on space in some vehicles. Smart diodes work with incandescent, LED, and multi-function wires, or multi-purpose wires. So if you have one wire that does more than one function. Say you have a wire that works as your brake signal, turn signal, and your running lights. The diode is smart enough so that when you apply the brakes and you turn on a blinker, it's going to make that connection and let the light do what it's supposed to do. Your diode wiring is going to be one of 5 main components to flat tow your Jeep behind your motorhome. The other 4 are going to be your braking system, your tow bar, your base plate, and your safety cables. As I mentioned, your diodes are going to connect directly to factory wiring behind your taillight, so it maintains a nice clean look on the vehicle. All we have to do when we're ready to tow our vehicle is hook up an umbilical cord from the front of our vehicle to our motorhome, and we're ready to go. There are other types of wiring out there. You have magnetic lights and you have bulb and socket. Bulb and socket, I don't know for sure if they're going to work with this. I'm going to say they're probably not going to work because there's not a whole lot of room on the back of these tail lights. Magnetic lights, easy to use, but with a Jeep, they're either a soft top or they have a fiberglass top, so we really have nowhere to stick them. If we did, your wiring would have to run over top the vehicle, and then you have potential of causing a little bit of damage to your paintwork. On top of that, when you're not using the lights, you have to find somewhere to store them. With these, once they're installed, we have nothing we have to do other than hook the umbilical cord up on the front of the vehicle. As far as the installation process is pretty simple and straightforward. If you follow me through this video, I'll walk you through step by step how to get it done. To start our installation, it might be a little bit easier if you remove your rock guard or your belly pan. What we need to do is we need to get our wiring ran from the front of the vehicle to the back of the tail lights. We can go either way. We can go down the passenger side or we can go down the driver's side. It really doesn't matter. But our big thing is we want to make sure we're staying away from anything hot or moving. What I like to do, because it's a Jeep, is I like to run it through the frame rail, because these Jeeps are designed for off-road use. And if we run it through the frame rail, it's protected all the time. We don't have to worry about rocks maybe hitting the frame. We don't have to worry about it getting damaged or anything else. So how I ran it was, I started here at the front, then I kind of made me a loop because my plug is actually going to sit right here. So I want to make sure I have enough that's going to come out. Looped it here, went over the top of my frame rail to here. You can see where I went through and then went into this hole right here. How I got it through my frame rail is using an airline tube. You can use a piece of wire, anything like that. Some with a little bit of stiffness that you can tape this onto it and get it ran to the back. I went through here and just kind of worked my way down. And here, here. When I got to here, because this Jeep is a manual transmission, we don't have a grommet on the firewall. So when we put in our braking system has to tie into this wiring depending on the braking system that you're putting it in. We're putting in the Stay and Play Duo. It's going to have to be tied into 3 of these wires. So, because we don't have a hole in the grommet, or a grommet in the firewall, we're going to have to go through the floor. There's several plugs underneath your carpet. If you look right here, there's a plug right here. With our newer Jeeps, we can't install our braking system underneath the hood because there's not a whole lot of room. So I'm going to end up installing this one underneath the front seat. Well, there's a grommet right here that I'm going to pass my wires out. You can see I took some of my diode wiring that we're installing now and I fed it out through this hole.
When I bring it out, I'm going to feed it down back behind this hard line, make my connections, and I can push it back into the frame rail so it stays protected and away from my exhaust. From here, again through the frame rail, you should be able to take and push it all the way back to the very back. You're going to have 2 holes on each side of your frame rail. You want to push it through the outside one first. Now we're going to take our 4 wires, we're going to separate them, and we're going to go up to where our taillight is. Next thing we need to do is we need to remove our taillights. We come right inside. There's going to be a little panel here. Take a plastic trim panel tool. We're going to pop that off. Take a 10mm socket. There's a plastic spring screw in there. Remove that. We're going to take our taillight. We're going to pull out, take our trim panel tool, we're going to run it right to this edge, and it's got little fasteners. You just need to get those to pop loose. There. Just like that. Once we get that, we'll disconnect our wiring. We're just going to push down on the tab. Then we need to pull this wiring off the back of our light. Just like that. We'll set our light aside. We're going to repeat that same thing for the passenger side. Once you have your wires separated, you're going to take your green wire and you're going to leave it down. You want to make sure you separate them all the way to the hole in the frame that you came out of. We're going to take our yellow wire, white, and brown wire. We're just going to tape the end together. Down inside the pocket where your taillight is, right in this corner, right down here, there's a hole that comes up. Take these and feed them up through that hole. Once you get them up, we can go ahead and remove our tape. Taking my brown and yellow, kind of set it to the side for a second. We're going to cut our ground wire down to size, and we're going to ground it. We're going to ground it to a metal surface. And make sure it's not on any plastic. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take mine, I'm going to ground it right here. You can go here, you can go here, anywhere where it's not going to get in the way of your light being reinstalled. I'll just cut this wire. I'll strip it back. Add on a ring terminal that comes in your kit. We'll take one of the self-tapping screws and put it right onto the body right there. We're going to take one of our diodes. We're going to pull off our connectors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my brake and turn signal, which is going to be our yellow wire for our driver's side. Strip it back. Add on one of your Spade connectors. And it's going to go on your diode where it says RV brake. There. Do our running light signal, which is going to be our brown. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the size. This time we're going to strip back both of these. And tie these together. Put on another Spade connector. It's going to go onto the center where it says taillights. This extra wire is going to go back down, and then we're going to run it over to the passenger side with our green wire. This is going to give us our running light signal on the passenger side. Before we do that, we're going to do our signals from our vehicle. And we've already tested and determined that our yellow wire on the vehicle side is going to be our brake and turn signal. The white wire with the gray stripe is going to be our running light signal. So we'll start with this one. We'll strip it back.
Strip off both sides. Add one of your spade connectors onto each end. Add it onto our diode where it says car brake in. Car brake out. That's going to recomplete our circuit for our factory wiring if we're driving our vehicle normally. Last thing we got to do is we got to connect our ground. You're going to have a little wire in your kit. It's going to look like this. We're going to strip off both sides. Add a ring terminal on one end. Spade connector on the end, or on the other. Spade connector there. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this, where I grounded this other white wire, pull that screw out, I'm going to ground it right there with it. Take our brown wire, feed it back down through the hole that we came up with our other wires. Now, it might be a good idea to take some RTV silicone. If you don't have any, you can find it here at etrailer, and put it around right where your spade connectors go on to their respective spots. One, it's not only going to protect the metal in there if any moisture gets in there to keep it from corroding, but once this dries, it'll help hold these in place so they don't actually come disconnected on you. Now, there's two different ways you can attach this. There's two-sided sticky tape on the back side. What I like to do, I'm going to take it, I'm going to zip tie it right to the factory wiring. And that'll also help keep our wires from coming out also. So you have that. And go ahead and reinstall our taillight. So I did with my wires, I came out the inside hole, went into this small hole right here, into this cross brace that we have our bumper or our hitch attached to, went all the way across, came out, in through this hole, out the outside hole. You can see I added a little bit of wire loom on it just to help protect my wires, and went straight up into the corner on our passenger side, same way we did on our driver side. On our passenger side, the only thing that's going to be different with making your connections other than driver's side is we're only going to have the one ground wire coming off the diode. Our running light signal is coming from the driver's side, which was our jump wire. So the only thing we need to connect into the factory wiring on our passenger side is going to be our brake and turn signal, which is going to be the white with the orange stripe on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my 6-pole plug temporarily so I can test everything out and make sure it's working correctly. Once I tested, I found out that my driver's side light was brighter than my passenger side. With the smart diodes, they wire just a little bit different than regular diodes. With the regular diodes, you have to tie into the factory running light signal coming from the back of the light. With the smart diodes, you don't have to. So I made a mistake there and tied my running light signal into it instead of my brake and turn signal. Brake and turn signal is going to be your white wire with your gray stripe. It goes to car brake out, car brake in, and what it does is the diode then makes the tail light for your brake and turn signal, which is here. When the running lights are on in the RV, that signal, because it's a multi-function wire, this is going to work as all three. It's going to work as your running light signal, your brake lights, or your brake signal, and your turn signal. So all I did was took my yellow wire that I had originally cut and had on there, took my ends off, and put a heat shrink butt connector on there and tie that wire back together again. Now we're going to test our wiring out. We're going to be using an alternate power source. It's going to simulate being hooked up to your RV. Tail lights, left turn, brake lights, right turn. Once you've tested it out, you know it's working correctly, you can go ahead and reinstall any other components for your flat toe setup, and you're ready to go. That's going to do it for a look at installation on Roadmaster's Smart Diode wiring kit on a 2019 Jeep Wrangler.